Hello honeys! I've collected all 70 stage sets in the Aikatsu anime and I put them all together for you. Enjoy! 70 Dark Palace Stage. Dark Palace is in last place purely because of its lighting. It's not a bad set, and it's dark on purpose to highlight the character's aura, but auras aren't part of this ranking. And since we can barely see any of the set design details, the impact of the stage itself is the most subdued on this list. 69 Secret Forest Stage. We can see more of Secret Forest, but I also find this stage pretty underwhelming. The mirror prop doesn't add a ton to the overall performance, and the downside of a big symmetrical circle set like this is that it lacks variation in potential compositions. No matter what direction you point the camera, the view doesn't change until you get more extreme worm's eye or bird's eye angles. 68 Aikatsu 8 2015 Stage. The Aikatsu 8 2015 stage is cute, and it's an asymmetrical circle this time. But it raises another criteria in my ranking, which is effective use of the inherently fantastical Aikatsu illusion system. The illusion system lets characters perform in an unlimited range of fantasy settings that can take full advantage of the medium of animation, so sets that are more realistic like this are farther down my ranking by default. 67 Fashion Square Stage. I have similar critiques for Fashion Square, which is styled like a showcase room. I gave it extra points for its lighting effects. The spotlights at the beginning of the performance give this stage a boost in complexity. 66 Stardust Music Stage. We'll be seeing Stardust music be used as a base for a few other stages on this list, but this is definitely the most basic version. It has absolutely no props or decoration beyond the matte painted background, leaving the character auras and the special appeal at the end to do most of the heavy lifting visually. There are some dynamic lights, but they don't make a huge impact. 65 Dreaming Cute Stage. The Dreaming Cute stage moves us on to our next point to consider, stadium stages. These kinds of sets tend to blur the boundaries between realism and fantasy, so a lot of the time I've taken things like lighting and scale into consideration when ranking them. For this one, the uniform lighting makes it a little more boring, and I find the concept of the props to be very vague. 64 Girly Room. Girly Room is more dynamic because of the moving lights and animated props, but it's a very contained set and very practical in concept. I would have liked to see much stronger theming here, even if it was something as straightforward as music or party. 63 Open Air Music Stage. The open air music stage is a bit of an outlier because yeah, it's very realistic and very uniformly lit, but it makes good use of the runway shape to create a variety of compositions. I like how much variety they're able to get in their camera angles, and the rock festival theming does come through decently for me. 62 TriStar Stage. TriStar Stage is the first entirely fantastical set we've seen, and I've given it a lot of credit just for that setting alone. The concept of this stage is the juxtaposition of its day and night phases, and the giant animated sun and moon set piece does a good job at highlighting that. It's a very simple stage, but some thought has gone into it. 61 Neon Road Stage. Neon Road Stage is another set benefiting from its runway structure. The urban setting is a bit of a waste to me, but they do amp up the visuals with dramatic neon lighting. The different building facades give nice variety in backdrops for different camera angles too. 60 Candy Pop Stage. You get a much more conceptual stage in Candy Pop, another runway set. I personally find all of the bright colors to be overwhelming, but that's not necessarily a technical flaw. The most impressive part of this set design to me is the spiral background that gives the scene a lot of depth. I would have liked more 3D elements, but they accomplish a lot with 2D textures alone. 59 Jingle Tree Town Stage. Jingle Tree Town has great lighting and 3D props, but its concept feels a bit haphazard to me. The marina theme is already leaning more into realism, and I'm not sure the Christmas theme added on top of it is helping. If you're used to having Christmas in a warmer climate though, I can imagine this set feeling a little more relatable. 58 Star Night Melody. The Aikatsu wiki claims that Star Night Melody is the stage in the movie used for both the Etude of Radiance performance and the Idol Activities performance. I've noticed that the props are different between them, but the structure is the same, so I'm going along with their decision for this ranking. That said, it's a pretty simple set. There's some nice dramatic lighting, and the fantasy setting is good enough for me, but the character auras are once again the focus here. The overall impact is good, but it leaves the stage itself a little lackluster. 57 Welcome Halloween Stage. The appeal of Welcome Halloween is all in the golden hour lighting for me. You get a variety of nice lighting effects from it, including some beautiful backlit shots, and the animated props are a nice touch too. It's a mundane street set, but it does sell the feeling of Halloween and trick-or-treating really well. 56 Trump Room Stage. More great lighting effects from Trump Room. The spotlights at the beginning are perfect. The animated stage floor is a nice touch too. Overall, the enclosed stage sets like this tend to be less interesting to me, but there is some effort put into the playing card concept. There are a lot of oversized props that don't make it into most shots. 55. Starship Stage. Starship Stage is extremely Y2K inspired. It looks just like a lot of my old toys. The space setting is a great use of the illusion system, and there's a lot of added visual effects to make the overall stage more dynamic. The stationary circle set design is basic, but the variety in background elements give a lot of opportunities to vary the camera framing. 54. Spring School Stage. Spring School Stage is very similar, and honestly I do prefer the cuter sets. I like the gilded Aurora Meadow concept they've got going on here. It matches well with the school chalkboard prop. I can totally see this being a kid's classroom daydream. 53. Sky Suite Stage. I have Sky Suite Stage up higher because of the scale of the stadium. With the bleacher seats stretching into the distance, this environment feels very expansive and fits the vastness of the blue sky background. Some of the balloon props are animated to look like they're floating away, which is subtle, but I think it's a nice touch. 52. Luminous Hall Stage. The Luminous Hall Stage is a little bit smaller in scale, but even though it's enclosed, it still has an immersive feel to it. The props are a bit sparse, but the animated screen surrounding the stage is able to make up for it. 51. Cookie and Clover Stage. My criteria is a little unfair to the Cookie and Clover Stage because it does lose points for being a more mundane setting. I totally see the Candy Cottage concept they were going for. I think this is a very cohesive set, but there's no big wow factor in lighting, scale, concept, or motion here. 50. Star Anise Stage. I'm glad the Star Anise Stage gets a little bit of use out of its darker lighting to show off the glowing costumes during its performances. I'm also glad that it's floating in a cosmic void, but it's missing some extra dynamic elements to push it to the next level of complexity. Those constellations in the background feel a little too flat to me. 49. Mystic Palace Stage. Mystic Palace has the same darkened lighting in the intro part of its performances, but it goes the extra mile to add to the outro too. The concept and execution of this room set is a little boring to me. Enclosed spaces inherently make scenes feel smaller, but it's still quite pretty. They make good use of the tapestries, window, and lanterns to create some interesting compositions. 48. Floral Garden Stage. Floral Garden is more interesting to me because of the transition from daylight to sunset lighting. The garden concept is a bit mundane, but they push it to a higher level of abstraction with the large scale of the runway and details like floating flower garlands. I noticed the colors on this set being particularly cohesive as well. 47. Arabian Palace Stage. Arabian Palace Stage is up here because of the giant wall and doors dividing the runway. It's a good prop and creates a dramatic sense of scale as well as a powerful moment in the performance when the doors are opened. The transition from sunset to night with the fireworks show is also a pretty nice detail. The stage itself feels a little toned down in terms of dynamic elements because of how many visual effects are used in this sequence. 46. March and March Stage. I also really like the dramatic effect of the telescoping stage in March and March. The triple elevation change is a whole new level of dynamics from what we've seen so far. And despite having a more grounded village square concept, I think the atmospheric perspective on the background buildings works well for making this environment feel fantastical and abstract. 45. Christmas Stage. Despite having no such dynamic elements, I like the Christmas stage just a little better because of the dueling stages concept. Having two stages connected by a runway gives the performance a strong sense of tension. It uses the same base set as the Neon Road stage and isn't that interesting overall, but the structure of the runway is very unique. 44. Milky Way Stage. So far, we're developing a trend in this ranking. Runways, good. Floating void setting, good. Put them together and you get very good. So yes, I like the Milky Way stage and how ethereal it feels. I don't like the spiral columns flanking the stage as much, and the lanterns lining the runway look repetitive, but overall I like the design of the set. 43. Quintuple Box Stage. The dollhouse concept of the quintuple box stage is very cute. It's nice that they use the different boxes as isolated sets for different characters, but I wish the prop designs were more unified. The visuals come off as flatter than I'd like, and the auras are clearly meant to pick up the slack on the visual effects. The animated floor is a good touch though. 42. Road of Wishes Stage. Road of Wishes is a bit disappointing to me because as interesting as the dappled forest lighting is, it keeps the whole set dark for too long. You can't discern many details in the cottage backdrop or the forest set pieces, and the reveal of the yellow brick road comes a little too late to make up for it. It's this high up for novelty, but I think it could have been improved a lot just by adjusting the light levels. 41. City Night Road Stage. City Night Road makes much better use of its lighting while sharing the same runway structure as Road of Wishes. They have similar end shots too. I'm still not super into the marina setting from the Jingle Tree Town stage since it feels so grounded, but the neon elements are really pretty. 40. Aikatsu 8 stage. The Aikatsu 8 stage is finally getting into some of the more exaggerated set dressing choices I've been looking for. Putting the characters on a giant record player and letting the record spin underneath them is such a fun idea. There aren't any crazy lighting changes or effects, but this is what I mean when I say I want heavier theming. 39. Aurora Galaxy stage. The Aurora Galaxy stage is mostly this high up for the comets flying by in the background. Yes, it's cool that it's in space, but I wouldn't be nearly as impressed without the dynamic energy added by those comets. They make up for the more basic design of the set pieces. 38. Colorful Fruit stage. Colorful Fruits also gets credit for a very simple design choice, the floating fruit platforms. The pairing of this stage with Angel Snow still baffles me, but the stage itself is very cute. It does feel shallow because of how clustered the elements are around the central sphere, but the space itself is very open. It's another one that gets a lot of points for novelty. 37. Trick House stage. Trick House gets runway and fantasy points. I think the Toyland concept comes through, and it has a lot of room to push that theme thanks to the stage structure. I don't think it's as visually unified as it could be, but it makes interesting choices like putting sections of the audience on raised platforms along the stage. The prop animations in the background are nice to see too. 36. Dancing Runway Music Stage. The Dancing Runway Music Stage is getting away with a more grounded concept by being visually cohesive and doing a lot with its lights. The light levels don't change throughout the performance, but the lights do have directional motion. It makes up for what it lacks in creativity by fully polishing all the elements it does use. 35. Cute and Cool stage. Do I think the Cute and Cool stage looks better with the lights down? Yes. But is it still pretty cool even in broad daylight? Also yes. I like the combined runway and circle stage structure of this set, and the rainbow void setting is fine with me. Even with so much ambient lighting, they still use the spotlights they have to create motion in the scene, and they haven't skimped on the extra visual effects. 34. Afternoon Tea stage. I want to like the Afternoon Tea stage more than I do, because it leans so heavily into the Alice in Wonderland theme, but in reality this theme could have been pushed even farther. It's a cute garden party set, but the banquet tables do get a little repetitive. I think details like the flying cards in the sky are just barely keeping this one's place in the list. 33. Musical Neon stage. Musical Neon is using the Stardust music stage as a base, just with a few more decorations this time. I like the way the music theme has been exaggerated with oversized speakers, instruments, and stage scaffolding. The animated lights look good, and the overall energy of the set helps sell the intensity of the performance. 32. Angel Neon stage. Angel Neon is like an evolution of Musical Neon, with the main difference being the extra detail in the lighting effects. The oversized props have also been switched out for abstracted scaffolding and an overhead LED screen. This version feels more visually dramatic because of how blown out the lights are in a lot of shots. 31. Triple Melody stage. Triple Melody is almost identical to Angel Neon, just with the school emblem swapped out for hearts. It has even more dramatic lighting, a bigger overhead lighting fixture, and a more polished take on the audience placement. Very fun to watch. 30. Glowing High Heel stage. I'm convinced that the glowing high heel stage is what Gyaru Heaven looks like. It's so sparkly and over the top, and I love the contrast between the pink satin floor and the leopard print columns. All the giant gemstone props are awesome too. The darkened intro and outro lighting are the cherry on top. 29. Aerial Park stage. Aerial Park stage didn't interest me very much until I saw that it's actually a floating island. I love that they have part of the audience standing in a pond that leads to a waterfall. It's exactly the level of detachment from reality that I want to see from an illusion system. I think they have a lot of good framing options between set pieces of different scales. The rainbows work especially well for me. 28. Sunshine Beach stage. The Sunshine Beach stage may be small, but I love the atmosphere it's created. It's like a tiny sandbar island hosting a secret concert. The giant surfboard backdrop is exaggerated perfectly already, but the added detail that they can be raised and lowered as an entrance door is extra fun. The lighting doesn't change that much, but they do blow out the light a little bit to sell the bright sunlight. 27. Heaven's Runway. Heaven's Runway gets a lot of points for the absurd Angely Bear props. Angely Bear is flying, marching in formation, and staring out over the main stage. It's all very silly and fantastical, and being set high up in the sky helps with that impression too. Still not the most interesting visually, but I like the effort that's gone into it. 26. Sweet Choco stage. Sweet Choco stage surprised me because I don't remember it very strongly, but the visual impact is great. I love how immersive the chocolate and gingerbread world feels. Every shot feels fun because of how far the concept is pushed. In this list we have so many realistic leading stages and stadiums, it's nice to break the mold. 25. Fever Night Stage. Despite what I just said, I do have to give Fever Night Stage a lot of credit despite being on the more realistic side. The lighting is so dramatic and the visuals are so polished that I really enjoy it. The light level changing throughout the performance makes it stand out a lot. 24. Masquerade Stage. If you're going to have an enclosed stage set, at least follow Masquerade's example and make it feel larger than life. Giant speakers, oversized curtains, and extending the set pieces 360 degrees around the stage makes it all feel more immersive. The hanging star props are also great elements, even though you can't see them in most shots. 23. Sun Paradise Stage. I'm really happy with the giant flowers and overall color palette in Sun Paradise. The stage and effects are a little simple, but it's another floating island with waterfalls cascading from it. The concept is too good, and the lush floral backdrop fits 3D elements perfectly. We'll see more like this later in this list. 22. Neon Cage Stage. I also consider the Neon Cage Stage to be on the simpler side, but it leans really heavily into lighting effects to make up for that. I love the animation they added to the background gears as well as the animated lights on the floor. It's not the most abstract concept, but they pushed what they have to the farthest tolerable extreme. 21. Gothic House Stage. I wasn't sure how high I'd place Gothic House at first since it has a more mundane setting, but I think the exaggerated scale of the set helps raise its appeal for me. The gnarled trees and the iron fence are a little hard to see, but you can't miss the giant full moon in the background. They're able to pull off a variety of great compositions thanks to the runway structure and the strong silhouettes of the set pieces. 20. Princess Stage. An infinite cathedral is a pretty good concept for the princess stage. They make good use of the vertical space with balcony-style seating along the runway. I also love the way the stained glass windows are used as spotlights. It's not the craziest design in the world, but I'm still pleased with the level of abstraction here. 19. Fairy Flower Stage. The Fairy Flower Stage is even more abstract though. It doesn't look too interesting in close-up shots, but in wide shots I think it has a gorgeous design. The circle stage sits on a golden pedestal, flanked by golden plant stands. The backdrop is a single enormous flower, and the massive scale of those details make the characters feel teeny tiny. Beautiful. 18. Nightmare Party Stage. Nightmare Party is essentially an upgraded version of Gothic House. It has extra Halloween theming added on top, and a really cool shift to an orange sky in the second half of the performance. It has all the same charm as Gothic House, just even more vibrant and visually interesting. 17. Electric Time Stage. Electric Time might be the most abstract stage we've seen so far. It's a runway set and looks like it's set entirely in digital space. I love the way it transforms from simple sketch outlines to a full-color mosaic, and the visual effects of the rotating circles and floating squares make the space look more dynamic. 16. Crown Arch Stage. Crown Arch Stage has the most beautiful giant crown canopy. I love that it's set in the clouds, and all the floral details make it feel more vibrant. Conceptually, I love this. In execution, I think it's a little too symmetrical. You don't get a ton of variety in shot compositions, but the wider shots and more extreme angles are really impressive. 15. Queen's Garden Stage. Queen's Garden is similar to Gothic House in that it's a more grounded setting, but it gets a lot of value out of its full moon backdrop. It also has a great depth in its floral arch set piece. There's a ton of variety in the shots for the stage because of those elements. It's a little bit of a shame that they don't use the extended stage space, but it's not that noticeable. 14. Fairy Dream Stage. The Fairy Dream Stage has a very similar design to the Fairy Flower Stage, but it has more dramatic lighting and the runway lets it have more exaggerated props. This is exactly what I would want in an Aikatsu stage. The fantasy theme is perfectly executed. I like that they're able to control light levels by shifting the color of the background gradient. 13. Jugoye Goyan Stage. Jugoye Goyan feels just a little more polished to me. There's a lot of pleasing color contrast in this set, and the layering of background elements stands out as particularly impressive. The towering scale of the bamboo forest also creates a sense that the characters are tiny in comparison. It makes the visual impact more dramatic, and all the details have been executed beautifully. 12. Clubhouse Stage. The Clubhouse Stage is the set for Move On Now and is very nostalgic, so I love the updates it was given at the end of the original series. The addition of new lighting effects helps make the performances feel more dramatic. Even though this is a fairly symmetrical set, the color blocking of the stage floor and wraparound LED screens help create variation between shots. 11. Belt Chain Dome Stage. Belt Chain Dome Stage is also extremely cool. I absolutely love how they pushed the fighting ring concept by elevating the audience and giving the whole set a purposely crowded feeling. The lighting is used intentionally throughout the performance, the stage floor is loud in contrast to the dark atmosphere, and the energy is intense thanks to all the animated elements. 10. Crescent Cruise Stage. For modeling an entire cruise ship as a base for this stage, Crescent Cruise deserves to be in the top 10. This is an amazing level of detail, and I admire how far the concept was pushed, especially that balcony for the audience. I don't think it translates into enough visual interest for the camera, but there are some interesting shots in there, and they do a lot with the lighting to make up for it. 9. Sunny Park Stage. Would it be the worst thing in the world if I was biased toward Diamond Happy and put Sunny Park Stage this high up? I don't think so. I think it can stand up here. The carnival concept is pushed really far. They modeled multiple rides just to fill out the set. They pull off a lot of interesting details in the lighting thanks to the transition between night and day during the performance. And the stadium is huge too. It's awesome. 8. Tropical Beach Stage. Tropical Beach Stage is extremely detailed and very immersive. Besides the huge set pieces, incorporating the beach itself into the stage is a genius idea. This is a more realistic set, but a ton of effort has gone into polishing it. There's a subtle glow on the character to represent the strong sunlight, and hints of whimsy in the giant surfboard backdrop and leaping dolphins. 7. Romantic Corridor Stage. I've never noticed how beautiful the Romantic Corridor Stage is until now. It has an abstracted castle setting, interesting use of scale in the set pieces, and gorgeous lighting effects. It's not the most complex scene, but it uses the elements it does have extremely effectively. The bubbling chalices lining the runway are a great example of the edited down appeal of the stage. The staircases flanking the sides are used really well for compositions too. 6. Blue Sky Lake Stage. Blue Sky Lake Stage is even simpler. It's just one large backdrop set piece, a sky dome, and a reflective ground plane. But it works so well. The walking on water effect is really striking, and the addition of ripples makes it feel so much more immersive. The backdrop set piece is also super saturated and made of iconic shapes which make it more memorable. The fantasy Swan Lake concept definitely comes through here. 5. Deep Sea Fantasy Stage. Speaking of fantasy, it's hard to get more fantastical than swimming underwater in deep sea fantasy. It's a perfect application of the illusion system, and it must have been a fight to include a swimming sequence in the middle of the performance. Those dolphins must have taken extra work too. This set does have a slightly awkward and closed feeling to it, but overall I think the coral reef theme has been executed beautifully. 4. Idle Activity Stage. I wasn't able to find the name for this stage, but it's the massive idle activity stage from the targeted magical Aikatsu card movie. I wasn't sure if I should include it since it was made by the Aikatsu Stars production team. The difference is pretty noticeable. You can ignore it if you want. I give it a lot of credit for the advanced lighting, abstract space/sky setting, and enormous scale. It makes a huge impact. 3. Pirates Marina Stage. I couldn't disrespect the Pirates Marina stage by leaving it out of the top 3. The pirate ship is so fun and full of detail. What's even more fun is having the characters fly around and interact with an adorable fairy character. There is so much life in this stage, and the illusion system is used to its full potential. I just wish the audience was placed in little rowboats. That would have been extra cute. 2. Round and Round Monster Stage. The Round and Round Monster Stage takes the character on a literal journey. It's packed full of wacky props and even has an interior set. I love that the lighting changes completely between the interior and exterior, and that consideration has been made for the audience by placing virtual audience members in the interior and including a screen for the exterior live audience to see inside. It really pushes the limits of what a stage can be. 1. Desertland Stage. Queen Otome wins the stage competition with the Desertland Stage, which is so huge it almost looks more like an amusement park or a music video set. There are so many different backdrops, moving pieces, and props being used here. The environment is completely abstract, only a loosely constructed candy wonderland. It's so much fun, and an immense amount of love has obviously gone into it. Perfection. Let me know your favorite stages in the comments below, and look out for my Constellation Chord ranking next week. Bye bye!
Galaxy, amazing! It's show!